When the visitor approaches the Vitra Design Museum in the intention of going to see our new exhibition, Making Africa, first thing he will see is this piece of graffiti by Senegalese graffiti artist Dr. This piece speaks about the exhibition very much, and it already addresses a lot of issues and themes that we're going to tackle inside and that we're going to see inside of the exhibition. The title of the work itself also speaks for the whole exhibition. It's I hope I get it right, in Wolof, which is a language in Senegal. It's de l'excité, and it means the future is today. And this is also something that we hope will transcend from this exhibition, if you want, and that we hope the visitors will take with them when they leave the exhibition, that they realize that there is another Africa, a new Africa, an Africa that is oriented towards the future, that has something to say about the future and has something to show, that has innovation, that has new solutions to offer, some innovations and solutions that we might not be aware of. We're at the beginning of the exhibition. We call it the Prologue. The Prologue is meant to really set the ground and make people think about three essential questions. One, what is design? Two, what is Africa? And three, what is African design? And all three are main issues that we need to be clear about before we actually, go along and enter this exhibition. Now, what is design? The notion of design, the definition of design that we follow in this exhibition is a very large one that goes way, way, way beyond, yet another chair, yet another table, or another, nice piece of graphic design. What we speak about in contemporary discourse in general is, we design processes, we design social interaction, we design services, we design infrastructure. So design covers a much larger field than it used to maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago in theory. What is Africa? Africa is a humongous continent, 54 countries, 2,000 or more than 2,000 languages and cultures, 1 billion inhabitants. How can we speak about one Africa? It's impossible. Now, if we wanted to do an exhibition on Africa, on the African design, we were bound to fail. It's impossible to cover the entire continent. It is impossible to speak about the African design. There is no such a thing. There is no such a thing as one Africa or one African. And what we're trying to do here in the Prologue is we have this installation, this video installation, where we did a lot of interviews with practitioners and theorists from the entire continent who, try to address these issues. What is Africa? Who's African? How does Africa play into, their individual work or in their conception and notion of maybe themselves or their own identity, or also how is Africa represented outside of Africa? So they discuss all these issues. Sometimes they agree with each other, but sometimes they contradict each other, and that's exactly the point. The whole setup is meant to show the diversity, the multiplicity, the many voices of Africa. And finally, what is African design? Very obviously, since it is impossible to speak about one Africa, it is equally impossible to speak about one African design. And African design is definitely way, way, way larger and more and richer and more, it goes way beyond humanitarian design or recycling or arts and crafts, which is what we usually associate with African design. And so it is this change of perception, this change of perspective that we invite the visitor to take, that is very nicely transferred, if you want, by the work of this artist/designer, whatever you want to call it, Cyrus Kabir, a Kenyan, and his series of sea stunners. Now, sea stunners are glasses that are made of found materials, and each of those sea stunners has, its own narrative, its own name, its own material, its own shape, its own way of looking. And a pair of glasses is obviously a very strong metaphor of how we look at things. And it's also something that maybe looks at us, and we enter this space and we see these glasses and they stare at us, or do we stare at them? And it's, it's this interesting conversation that starts, and that is also representative for the continent, because with the introduction of the internet and the social media, the conversation is no longer one way, but it's two ways, and it's on a very equal eye level. And this is something that we're trying to do here. We also address or the pieces that we show in this area of the exhibition address issues of representation. Who speaks about Africa and who's allowed to speak about Africa? We speak about stereotypes and about preconceptions, positive and negative. So this is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to invite this new perception, this new perspective, and once this general openness to the new perception or a new perspective is there, we invite the visitor to the rest of the exhibition. So once the ground is set, if you want, in the prologue, we invite the visitor into the rest of the exhibition. The rest of the exhibition is basically along three large issues. We scrutinize and analyze the creative output, the creative work, and also the individual creative producer or creative professional by three large sets of questions. One, social belonging. Two, the environment, man-made and natural. And three, who am I, is always comes along with the questions, where do I come from, where am I going, so the past and visions of the future. Now the second room is dedicated to social belonging. Who do I belong to, who do I want to belong to, who do I not want to belong to? And oftentimes these questions manifest themselves in fashion or styling. Now fashion styling is, of course, they don't happen in the void. They're always embedded in a larger political, economic, social, cultural framework. And so this makes them interesting artifacts for a museum, a design museum, of course, to scrutinize and to analyze and observe. Now, what we see very often is our references to the past. This is something that we see, that we do in the exhibition in general. We make references to the first post-colonial era, where a young generation once already celebrated Africa, celebrated their independence, and celebrated, their right to a future. And there was this general optimism, this feeling of, yes, now it's us.